So you accepted the job offer. You signed the paperwork. You agreed to trade your time and your skills for a paycheck. But here's the thing. There's a second contract, an unspoken one that nobody ever walks you through. And honestly, it's going to have a way bigger impact on your career. We're going to dive deep into this guide for young professionals, Life Actually.
Right? You know your job title, you know your salary, you know when to show up. But what did you really sign up for? See, behind all that official paperwork, there's this deeper agreement. It's all about judgment, discretion, and trust. And getting a handle on this hidden contract, that's what separates the people who just float from job to job from the ones who actually build a real career.
All right, so in this explainer, we're going to break down the 6 key clauses of that unspoken contract. Think of this as the secret rulebook for how the professional world actually operates.
Okay, let's start with the big foundational idea. A job isn't just you doing tasks and them sending you money. The second you accept that offer, you become a living, breathing representative of that organization's entire reputation.
And this, right here, is the absolute key. From this point on, every decision you make, every email you fire off, it doesn't just reflect on you anymore. It sends ripples out that can affect the company's brand, its relationships with clients, even its legal risk. It's a massive shift in responsibility that, weirdly, no one really talks about during onboarding.
So that brings us to the second clause, and it's a big one. You are the brand. You know, most people think the brand is marketing's problem. You know, the logos, the clever ads, the slogans, but the real brand, it's just trust. And that trust, it's built or completely shattered in thousands of tiny, everyday interactions by every single employee.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got the official stuff marketing cooks up, the logos, the campaigns. But on the other side, that's the real brand. That's the actual experience people have with your company. It's in your emails, your tone of voice in a meeting, whether you follow through on what you say you'll do. That is what people remember. That is the brand.
So, if you're the brand, what does that actually mean when you're just trying to get through your Tuesday? Well, it brings us to this kind of legal-sounding idea called fiduciary duty. Don't worry, it's a core part of this whole unspoken agreement, and it's simpler than it sounds.
Fiduciary duty definitely sounds like a heavy legal term, but the idea behind it is actually pretty straightforward. It just means you have a responsibility to use your best judgment to protect the company's overall health for the long run. And here's the really important part. This isn't about blind loyalty. It's not about just saying yes to everything. In fact, sometimes acting in the company's best interest means being the one to speak up when something feels off.
So, what does this look like in your day-to-day work? Well, it's flagging a potential problem before it blows up into a full-blown crisis. It's refusing to cut corners, even when you're under pressure, because you know it could cause bigger problems down the line. It's protecting sensitive information, and yeah, it's having the guts to raise your hand when you think an ethical line is about to be crossed. These are the things that build serious professional credibility.
That whole idea of a duty of care leads us straight into our next clause, discretion. Here's a cool way to think about it. Imagine your company as a castle. Now, the obvious defenses are the things you can see, like locked doors and passwords. But the most important defenses are invisible. They're built from the everyday judgment and discretion of the people inside. Protecting the castle is everyone's job.
And a huge part of protecting that castle is how you handle confidential information. Look, just because your login can get you into a file doesn't mean you should open it. Real professional judgment means respecting those boundaries and fighting that temptation to just take a peek. Simple things, like locking your computer when you walk away or not talking about work stuff in a crowded coffee shop, are these quiet, powerful signals that tell everyone you can be trusted.
And oh boy, there is nowhere discretion is more critical today than on social media. What feels like a vague, harmless vent to you could look like a major red flag to a client or a golden opportunity to a competitor. Even sharing good internal news before it's officially announced can create all sorts of problems. Your personal digital life can have very, very real professional consequences.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking at this point. This all sounds like I'm just working to protect the company, right? But here's the big twist, and it's the most important part of this whole conversation. By protecting the company, you are in fact protecting yourself. This is the ultimate payoff.
Think about it. Your skills, they're listed on your resume. But your reputation? That's what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. Most industries are way smaller than you think, and people talk. A reputation for having rock-solid judgment, for being reliable, for being discreet,
That is the asset that gets you recommended for the amazing opportunities that never even get posted online. That reputation follows you for your entire career.
As the author Glenn Shubb says, the people who understand this early do not just safeguard the organization. They become the ones the organization relies on, promotes, and stands behind. When you show that you get this unspoken contract, you stop being just another employee. You become someone the organization actively wants to invest in. You become the person they trust with more responsibility because your actions have proven it's a safe bet. So let's do a quick recap of the main clauses of your unspoken professional contract. Think of these as the fundamental rules of the game that nobody ever actually writes down for you.
First, you are the brand. Your actions bring it to life. Second, you have a duty of care, which really just means using good judgment. Third, practice discretion. It's how you show you're trustworthy. Fourth, remember that protecting the company's reputation is the best way to protect your own. And finally, all of this, it's about building trust, and that is the absolute bedrock of any successful career.
So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. This isn't about changing your entire personality overnight. It's about small, consistent choices. Maybe it's just double-checking an email for its tone before you hit send, or being a little more careful about how you talk about a tough project with friends. What's the one small step you can take this week to prove you're ready for that next level of trust?